Hello, and welcome to my channel. I am Damien Marie AtHope. In the simplest terms, I am an atheist-humanist philosopher and prehistorical writer-researcher at DamienMarieAtHope.com. I am specifically an axiological atheist. An axiological atheism can be thought to involve ethical and value theory reasoned and moral argument driven atheism, Ignosticism, atheism, anti-theism, anti-religionism, secularism, and humanism. Axiological atheists can be understood as a value theory or a value science atheist. As an axiological atheism's ethically reasoned and constructive pro-humanity. I am an axiological thinker, value theorist. The science of goodness, worthiness, usefulness, valuableness, virtue, reliableness, accuracy, validity, morality, integrity, beneficialness, etc., etc. We axiologists have a value consciousness. And in general, we see the architecture of humanistic humanitarianism value in people that we see as dignity beings. Places and things are not. Axiology is a value theory. In its broadest sense, it involves areas of philosophy that are deemed to encompass some evaluative or evaluation aspect. Therefore, it crosses almost all domains in some way or another. Now for a more detailed terms as to what I am. I am an axiological atheist, an anti-theist, an anti-religionist, secularist, humanist, rationalist, writer, artist, poet, philosopher, advocate, activist with schooling in psychology, sociology, as well as I am an autodidact, self-taught in science, archaeology, anthropology, and philosophy. I promote science and am against pseudoscience, pseudo-history, pseudo-morality, things that are found in religion. I support realism, axiology, of course, liberty, justice, ethics. I am also an anarchist socialist. I support anarchism and socialism, progressivism, liberalism, philosophy, psychology, archaeology, and anthropology, advocating for sexual, gender, child, secular, LGBTQIA+, race, class rights, and equality. So if you can guess from all that, I support or challenge that I have an eclectic variety of videos on a variety of topics. Please take time to check them out, as well as if you enjoy them, please give them a like. And don't forget to subscribe, as new things are on their way all the time for my channel. This is Damien AtHope, and I am an axiological atheist, which can simply be understood as a value theory or a value science atheist. And I'm here today with a guest, a very smart gentleman who has also wrote a very interesting book. Could you go ahead and tell us your name and a little bit about you?
Sure. My name is Kristoffer Martin. I am the author of the Spectacular Gay Atheist, Straight Answers to Your Queer Questions. And I am also, in a certain sense, an axiological atheist, although I prefer the term a realist atheist. Generally speaking, as an atheist, I reject any notions, of course, of religion. The principal idea is that most of those things are relegated and subsumed by science and our actual understanding of reality. I'm also gay, and there is an intersectionality between atheism and homosexuality that exists within our society, which is why I wrote my book. A little background about myself. I actually went to school studying creative writing with a lot of different minors, and then I ended up doing my master's degree overseas in screenwriting for radio, TV, and film.
For film?
Yeah, for radio, TV, and film.
Oh, radio, TV, and film. You said it kind of slow and fast, so.
Sorry about that. And one of the reasons why I wrote this book is over the last several years, I received a lot of really stupid questions on Facebook. What's
That's
a
a good
dildo?
place for stupid questions.
Yes.
But for me personally, just so people know, I actually welcome stupid questions because I feel like, to me personally, if it's a genuine, now if it's just a person trolling, fuck that bullshit. But I mean, if it's someone who honestly, and I also say to people too, for me personally, it's okay to do it publicly. You can always ask me the brutalest questions publicly because that's who I am. But I don't think that people should get the opinion that that's how everyone has to be. I think most people you should approach with those kind of questions privately. But me, feel free to say it anywhere. But I'm just saying, I think we need to think about other people's, saying stuff or asking questions that other people feel really bad and can actually, hurt them or make them feel ashamed. I don't support us attacking, people like that. But go ahead.
The point of my book wasn't really to attack them, but to actually address some of these questions because there seems to be a lot of disinformation and misinformation, not just about atheism, but about the LGBTQ community that exists. And the reason why I say stupid question is that these are questions that are easily answered if you were to search online, but they go ahead and ask me anyways on Facebook. Not that the questions themselves are inherently disingenuous.
Right.
I think that many people don't have a strong understanding because of either their familial background, what
Right.
they were raised in, socially speaking, or the political background. They have this misinformation that exists,
Oh,
and they
I think
just
that right now is a serious problem on the right.
oh, it is. It is very much
Not that
a
the
big
left
problem.
doesn't have some of its own issues, but man, the right.
Well, politics across the board has this issue because they are playing that political game. And even now, unfortunately, um, we have this political game with LGBTQ lives. There are so many different states that are trying to pass laws that ban
Disgusting.
transgender athletes, or they try to make it so that you can't have medical care for a person who's transgender because they're
That's
underage.
unethical as fuck to me. What the?
It
I
is.
mean, to me, the person who ever even supports that or put that or sign that lacks honor to a level that I would not want to stand next to you as a person. That you would deny medical care.
Well,
Medical care.
it's not even a matter of honor. It's a matter of human
To me,
decency.
I'm saying.
My opinion. It's a matter of lacking human decency. And the reason why it is that is because they are putting forward and putting ahead of people's lives their political clout.
Oh yeah.
And that is a huge problem in our country. It is this political arena where it's a game and every single person is a pawn to these people and they don't care about the impact of their actions on these individuals. I mean, as a start, I mean, look at the laws against abortion, for example. A fundamental woman's right to control their body. And you have states like Oklahoma and Florida and Alabama and Georgia and Texas who are continually degrading the access to and the ability for women to control what happens to their body. And it comes down to, again, human decency and a lack of respect for the individual person in their country or their state. And that right there is a major part of the political arena. We have these individuals, these politicians, who are focused on a particular subgroup, a subdemographic, where it's their base. And their base says, oh, we don't like abortion. We don't like homosexuality. We don't like atheists. We don't like XYZ group. They play to that so that they can stay in power rather than doing what their job is, which is to represent the whole state or to represent what is meant to be done, which is uphold the Constitution. So that's one of the reasons why I wrote this book, is to inform people. There are many problems that exist and misinformation that just needs to be addressed. So, I mean, the first two chapters of my book, which are the two longest chapters, by the way, delve into what is homosexuality, what is transsexuality, what is transgenderism, what are all these other parasexualities like pansexuality, asexuality, bisexuality, etc. Give explicitly specific details. This is what this is. This is why it exists. this is our best understanding of how these parasexualities come about. And then I go into atheism. Why am I an atheist? Why many people who have left religion have left religion. And then after that, it's just me answering a lot of stupid questions. Me literally taking quotes from Facebook and going, okay, this is my answer to this particular question. Here you go. And it's meant to be funny and quick-witted and self-contained in each chapter. So you literally pick up the chapter, pick up the book, read it in a couple of minutes, and come away with something interesting and informative.
Cool. I mean, that sounds like the kind of stuff I'm constantly. People ask, like, if I'm an atheist, but what I would classify myself truly just in one simple word is I'm an activist. I want to fucking change the world for the better. I mean, just period. I want a better humanity. I want it better for all of us. I mean, everyone on the planet, not America. I mean, everywhere. I want where there's no difference between African and Asian and American. In Australian or English. I mean, really, to me, all of this, we're just one humanity, and I definitely agree. To me, we're dignity beings. That's how I see people. To me, anything that can feel and suffer and has an awareness of self is a dignity being. It's a being that, to me, I need to try to treat with dignity. That when something has dignity, what that means is that, like, when we say I have human rights, you're appealing to dignity. You're saying, hello, I have dignity. You have to treat someone with dignity, with human rights. And so I try to treat actually all living things with dignity, because I realize that it is a bigoted thing for me to separate myself somehow from the other dignity beings. I mean, they just had an article, it just came out and said that a bee can actually been shown scientifically to be aware of the human faces, like differences. And I was thinking, well, it's a social species, so I shouldn't really be that surprising. And it has to be aware actually of differences, right? Of what's the queen, what's the worker, what's the, the hand person, the maiden or whatever, what's the farmer, because they actually grow things too. There's ones. So what's the soldier? My point is, so you can see where it's not illogical, but it's our bigoted sense of self, of importance, of, human. And I'm not saying humans aren't important. I'm an axiologist. I always know that everything starts at the individual. And then the individual's experiences, like a microcosm. And someone asked me too, well, how do you explain like a police officer or fire department? Say, well, an individual cares about themselves, and axiologically, you have a right to, okay? And then your next thing is your immediate family. Of course, what happens is, for a police officer, they've taken on willingly, supposedly, the responsibility that family equals the whole town. And a fire department, the whole city.
Well, that's how it's supposed to be.
Well, no. I'm just explaining axiologically. I was trying to say how my theme does not change. It actually explains all the other things. And then a soldier is now the whole country is family. But I want to say that, to me, humanity is my family. And thus, I want to try to act as if every living thing is part of my family. And really, not in a superstitious or spiritual kind of way for people, but just for me, realizing that scientifically, all life started from the same source. So
except Ted Cruz.
Yeah. Well, some people, so I try to say that, there's still a dignity being. It's just a dignity being with behaving in a way that I find is unacceptable, unethical, that violates its own dignity in the process.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing on this matter. And so I agree with you that we should treat all humanity as kind of a unified group. But on the flip side, I'm also one to say that there is a need, unfortunately, to identify culturally or subculturally.
Oh, yes, well, absolutely. Because I think that we never should forget that there is no real thing called a community. There's only a bunch of individuals that trust each other and are feeling connected. There is no, so it's in a sense an archetype of thought.
Well, I would say that what you just described is the very foundation of what community is. The entire principle behind most of the fear that exists, specifically politically, is fear of the other. Okay, so So the thing is, when you talk about the whole of humanity as a large family, you want to treat it as this way. You're actually really saying that you want to get rid of the fear of the other, and
Yes, I
the
do.
fear of the
I do
yeah,
that. I do want that actually. I totally want the fear of the other because to me there is no other. That's what I'm trying to say. Is exactly
yeah,
that point. I don't see an other. When I see a bug, I go. Yesterday I was thinking about killing this bug in my car, and I didn't. I just let it stay there, and then if it flies out, whatever.
mm,
Not because I want bugs in the car. I was just thinking that's a mind. Would I walk up to a random stranger that was looking for shelter and just
mm,
kill them? And then feel like I'm a good person? I was just thinking about that. My behavior. So I'm just saying, and I'm not saying I've never killed anything or done harm. I'm just saying I really want to be a better person. I want to think more. I want to be more aware. And that's why I do agree. I have to care about where I live, my little town, my wife, my life or whatever, and then my friends, my city. But I want to make sure that I never under the delusion that that's all I have to care about. I remember one time when I was living in California, I went down to Mexico on like I don't know what it's called, but you go to like an orphanage. It's like a whole
mm,
bunch of people, right? And they give food and things and money. I gave food and money as an atheist, an out atheist. Everyone else there is religious. I had no
yeah.
problem. To me, if you do good things, you are my people. Atheists are not my people. Good people are my people. If you happen to be atheist, fucking cool. We're thinking alike. But really, if you're an atheist and you're not a good person, you are not my people. Just saying. But so,
Well, what I was going to say about the other is that there's two key principles though that many people misunderstand, and I think that it can be problematic in resolving social political issues across the board, and it is actually the driving force behind our current political system in the United States and unfortunately abroad. So the reason why we had the political game we discussed earlier, where we have women's rights being attacked, where we have gay rights being attacked, where we have transgender people being attacked, is this fear of the other. Fundamentally speaking, we have people who are in politics, who are in power, who understand that fear of the other is a very powerful tool to manipulate.
it is.
And while it is in a principle, an idealistic principle, where we can actually strive and work towards getting rid of fear of the other. Fear of the other is an instinctual, embedded function of our mentality, and it is very, very hard to overcome.
Well, like in
So,
my research, it's about I feel it's about 50,000 years ago where totemist thinking as far as relating to how we interact as a society. Because for by 40,000, there is a clear, obvious distinction that people are no longer having as much sex with their offspring. The only way that can happen is culture. So to me,
well,
what I'm talking about is the other. It goes because what totemism is about realizing the sacred and profane, realizing that the familial lanes. Thus, I am one family, they are another. So it's a whole bunch of other stuff, but that's one of the elements. So I'm just saying, I think personally, it's a like. So you said like it's old. It's old. It's very
no,
old.
it's actually pre-cultural, pre-societal. It is instinctual. The fear of the other actually goes back to before we even had language. Okay, it is a fundamental instinctual aspect of humanity and most other animals for that matter. We see fear of the other at an instinctual level, even within lion prides, for example, or within tiger groupings. We might see it with groups of monkeys and apes and
Oh yeah, yeah.
reindeer.
I wasn't saying that. Well, to me, just like people say, when did caring happen? I would say fish. That's when it happened. They school. To me, the fact, and they do all kinds of other behaviors. But to me, they work together. So they do all kinds of behaviors. In fact, dolphins rape and stuff, and they work as a
Mm,
team. They hang out as a bunch of guys, and then with
yep.
one chick, and they just rape her and stuff. I mean, it's not a good thing. But
Well,
all I'm trying to say is I'm just saying that certainly is a culture. You can't say that's it's not some kind of culture. The person stays with them. I mean, they still feed her. I mean, it's weird, babe. Sorry, but it's weird to me because it still shows that all this stuff we think is human, it's It's fish. It goes back way, way, way. So I agree. I'm saying I agree with you. Not saying everything, but the elements. Like you can see that it was a progression of more and more elements instead to get to animals with deeper social behavior.
Evolutionary complexity, evolution complexity in play here. So, but the idea that we have this fear of the other, it is ingrained in us. That drives racism, that drives bigotry, that drives bias, that drives a lot of things. And it also drives cognitive dissonance because when we think we know the answer and we have it ingrained in us, then we are very reluctant to release and give up on that answer that we have for something that is solid and is proven otherwise. And the thing is, this is where the intersectionality of homosexuality and atheism comes in, because religion embodies and emboldens people with that cognitive dissonance. And atheists, for example, there's a reason why many people that are LGBTQ are atheists now.
Yeah.
And that is because they've been rejected by religious groups. They've been, called pedophiles, they've been called a whole bunch of nasty names, really, and relegated to being lesser than everybody else. And so these people who are gay or transgender or lesbian or bisexual who have been rejected by the religions, they go, okay, well, what to do now? What's the answer now? And then they start asking the right questions. The questions of, does God exist? Why would God make this happen? Et cetera, until they eventually arrive at atheism. And the fact that a religious group can reject a person and that instantly challenges their cognitive dissonance, this ingrained feature that they have been raised with to the point where that person becomes an atheist, is both astounding and also not really surprising. Many people who are atheists have encountered an issue with religion.
Oh. When you said that, it reminded me of this one time. I have this shirt, right, with sparkles. It's like all these gems, because I'm genderqueer, so I don't care if people think I'm gay. I'm not gay, but I don't care if they do, because gay people go, whatever. They go, well, you're not acting manly. I'm like, well, see, now that I agree with. Not exactly manly, but not gay. It's just not manly. But anyways, so I had in diamonds, like whatever, bling, it says atheist, right? And I wear it like I used to wear it all the time, but I haven't been wearing it as much because I've had like some pretty negative reactions. And it doesn't say anything but just atheist. That's all it says. And it's even got a little heart and it's gems. I mean, how threatening. It's not even manly, right? Why are you so threatened? But anyways, this one chick comes up to me and she said, she has a hat on, right? I have a hat. She has a hat. Hers is Christian, big as fuck. Right? So mine says atheist, big as fuck too, right? And she goes, that's really an interesting hat. And I go, yeah, thanks. And she goes, did you make that? I said, yes, I did. I'm really artistic. I like doing stuff. So I blinged it out for myself because I like to be who I am and I don't care if other people don't like it. And she says, well, that's a good attitude. That's why I wear mine says Christian. And I said, okay. And then she said to me, well, don't you expect that because you wore that you should be challenged of your beliefs as an atheist? And I said, I don't know. That sounds like a question of somebody who doesn't understand that they actually are in the position that I'm not in, right? You have a bunch of privilege being a Christian that I don't have, so much that you think, of course, that I, who am atheist, need to be challenged, but you don't also believe that just because you wore a Christian, that I now have a right as an atheist to randomly challenge you and I don't know you. Is that what you believe? And she says, well, that's kind of odd when you put it that way. I go, yeah, that's called your privilege. Now you're realizing it. Yeah, welcome to the real world.
Well, you see the same effect with white privilege. You see the same effect with white
privilege.
And interestingly enough, that actually reminds me of something that I just find hilarious. And that is, have you ever noticed Jesus fish on cars?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Now, the funny fact about this is
I have one in my car with the Tyrannosaurus Rex eating a Jesus fish.
Oh God.
Oh yeah, I'm surprised my car's not been bombed. I'm crazy, but
no. Here's the thing. So that Jesus fish is an ancient fertility symbol.
Of course it is. Yes.
Right? So you have all these people driving around with basically vaginas on their cars. You have a T-Rex eating out a vagina on their car.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, like some of these people, they don't understand what it is. And it's like they have the Jesus in the fish. I'm just like, oh, it's not just any vagina. That's Mother Mary's vagina now. That's a holy vagina you stuck in your car.
Well, just like people don't realize that the Ankh symbol is kind of related to this sacred knot. And the sacred knot, what it was menstrual blood in a rag that was tied and then hung around the king's nest as like an omen of Isis, and that it would protect them supposedly. So menstrual blood was protective. What a different society now sees it.
Oh yeah. Well, and then, but the best part of this is you get the evolutionists that have evolution. They have the vagina with the two clits on it too. But it's like, do you guys understand what you're sticking on your car? Really? No, it's not what you think it is.
Oh no.
But no. So yeah, you're right though. There is this privilege that exists where religious people can isolate and become insular and uphold their religious belief as though it's the absolute. And then when anybody challenges it, it becomes sacrosanct. It becomes impossible to get any type of message across to them. And this is especially true when it comes to issues like, again, gay rights. Gay rights. The number one opponent to gay rights has been religion.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And so, even
well,
now,
what's funny is in older religions, just so you know, like in Babylon, you worshipped what was her name again? Iana, I think. Anyways, whatever. But it was a deity over there, and you worship the males would by generally cutting their genitals off. Later in the Mithras cult, they started doing that, cutting the male genitals off. But anyways, and then the guys would basically work as prostitutes, as in a sense pseudo females, or I guess trans, right? Totally accepting trans. I mean, these people, and they were venerated. And in fact, this is another thing. It has to be totally trans, really. Now that I think about it, because if you had sex with them, you had sex with a female. I was just thinking about this. They didn't totally see it like as like homosexuality. That person wasn't a male no more, in a sense.
Yep. Well, that's the thing too. Ancient religions, especially pre-Christian, monotheistic religions,
totally
often accepted homosexuality, often accepted transgenderism. If you look to native groups, native religions,
two-spirited.
Well, two-spirited. I'm reluctant to call them religions. I think they're native beliefs. I don't like the idea of calling native groups at least religions, especially in the same sense as Christianity. But if you look at those groups, they do have these concepts of two-spirit, or they simply accept it as existing as part of their society. Only really modern religions like Christianity and Islam, for example, reject homosexuality and transgenderism in general. And I think that comes from this very strongly held rejection of early Roman practices. Because
I would say it starts about 5,000. 7,000 years ago in Europe, there's at least 5 genders. It looks like, because there's figurines and stuff, and the way they put them together, it's multiple. Put it this way, I guarantee it's at least 3 genders. I guarantee that's an absolute fact. In fact, sometimes they would do deities with both, like intersex and stuff. So they had zero problem with that shit. And also they would do ones that would shapeshift genders. Like it's a female goddess, and then now it's worshipped as a god, but it also sometimes is a female, depending on what it's doing. But so, yeah, I know. So I agree. Their idea of gender really before 5,000 was a lot different. After that, and then I agree, Romans to me are the big ones too, because the culture before them, the Etruscans, the women would have their boobs out, and where they were also poly, where the women could have multiple partners, and they actually, to the fact that the Romans said those disgusting people, they don't even know who their children are, because to them, there's a difference between going through the female line or the male line. The female line, the Etruscans felt, of course we know who the mother is. That's what matters. And they would say, yeah, but you don't. The Romans, you don't know who the father is, and they're like, that doesn't matter. A whole society takes care of the children in a sense, and the Romans were more, no, man's most important. You need to know who the man's son is, and so that I think that definitely from that kind of a male
Well,
only, you know.
well, the interesting thing about that is there is a dichotomy between matriarchal and patriarchal societies, and we see time and time again in matriarchal societies, including modern ones that still exist today, like the matriarchal sub-society that's in China, where the men and women are separated. They have completely different villages. Once in a while, they'll get together, they'll have children, they'll be married for a short period of time, and then they go back to being separate. We see this strange acceptance that is very much counterintuitive to modern society as we want
Oh
to think
yes,
of it
definitely.
when it comes to sexuality. But going back to Romans for a moment, the Romans and the Greeks both accepted homosexuality. It was very common. Debauchery and multiple orgies and all of these kind of
Right,
sexual freedoms that existed in the Roman culture
right,
played a huge role within their society until we see the injection of Christianity
right. Yeah,
into
true.
the Roman society. And that's when the Romans kind of went, okay, well, we have this large group of people. They want to be attacked. If we don't do something, they're going to screw us over. And so we're going to accept their religion, make it the official religion, integrate as much crap as we can. And all of a sudden, now homosexuality is wrong. And it's very funny, too, because there is research that shows, for example, the particular passages within the Bible that say, there's a passage that says, like, a man who lies with a man is an abomination, as they would, a woman, whatever.
Right.
That
Yeah, but there's
particular,
also in that same like group of claims, because those are all claims of what a God said. It's not proof. It's claims of
yeah,
what a God said. But in that group of claims of what a God said, it also says that eating shellfish is an abomination. Wearing
mm-hmm.
mixed fabrics is an abomination. I
Well,
mean,
that,
any
that's
God
true.
that says those dumb things, I think the other thing you can just forget.
Well, no, see, that's the funny thing, though. I think some of those things are actually understandable, but the thing is that the particular section is a mistranslation. It actually, if you go back to the original Hebrew and the original Greek, it says the man who lies with a child as he would a woman is an abomination,
Oh well,
not
that
a
would be an abomination to me. That would be the one few things I agree with the Bible if they
and
said
that
that.
and that translation, that original translation, is a direct response to the Roman culture because during that time, Roman gladiators, for example, would take on younger boys who would come there, essentially their squire, their attendant, and they would have sex with them, and it was considered an honor, and it was considered abhorrent to the early Christians and the Jewish people and the Hebrew people. Um, and so we have this passage that was in the original Bibles. You can see it in the Dead Sea Scrolls. We can see it in some of these early adaptations of groups of books, and it got
Yeah, I never heard
mistranslated.
that, but that's very
Purpose,
interesting.
well, it was purposely mistranslated in the 19th century.
Yeah.
The Pentecostal and Baptist group in the U.S. bought up all of the rights to printing and producing Bibles, both in the United States and in Europe. And they were very much against homosexuality and sexuality in general. You weren't supposed to have sex unless you were married. It was not for pleasure. It was this very almost extension of the some of the earliest kind of narrow-mindedness that existed.
Well,
And
yeah.
then,
Well, even without knowing the accuracy of what you just said, about the things, it seems reasonable as a motivation, anyways. Because I do agree. I know most of my knowledge really is above 4,000. I have like a million years ago to 4,000. I do prehistory of
yeah,
religion. That I've been researching for 10 years. That's what I'm really good. When it starts to go below that, I know some stuff, but it starts to be I'm less confident. I don't. I haven't studied all that, so
yeah.
because I wanted to
Well,
figure out. My thing was, how did this get here?
sure.
How did I wanted to know, like, in a sense, the evolution of religion. So
Well, let's see. In my area is how does modern religion actually affect modern society?
hmm
Because, in all honesty, the history to how did religion get to this point, doesn't particularly matter so much as how do we stop religion from causing the problems it's doing now.
Well, I think it helps us understand so we can stop it. But yeah, because you know how many people when I show them like how it kind of happened,
Yeah,
they lose belief. I mean, their belief you can see it like like.
well, it dwindles down, and like the whole idea of like monotheism versus polytheism. Monotheism is the result of polytheism subsuming itself. We can actually
What? Can you say it again? You said it fast.
sorry, monotheism is the result of polytheism subsuming into itself. And we can actually track the history of polytheism as it dwindles into monotheism. It's very
I
actually
would say for me, my research, it's about 4,000 years ago, where multiple areas from China, from Mongolia, from the steppes like over like Ukraine, and then also in Europe and in the Middle East, all in Africa. Everybody is all at about 4,000. They start to see these like in a sense storm gods becoming the main, or sun god, same thing, kind of, sky god, whatever, becoming the main only god. It already was kind of like the main and everyone's below him, but now forget everybody, just him. And even Mongolian, because they worship Tan, which is they call it the great sky, but it really is a form of monotheism. And that there's writing in China that's 4,000 years old that says Tan.
Well, let's give you an example because I think this is interesting for your audience. So let's go back to the Greco-Roman gods and the Canaanite gods. Okay, so we go back 1,000 years ago. There are across these three pantheons, which are essentially a shared pantheon. There are around 50 gods, and if we take into account that these gods are there to explain things that we don't understand. Why does it like me?
Totally agree. It's misunderstanding, yes.
Why do we love all those things? But the thing is, as we progress forward in time, more and more of these things are becoming understood through naturalistic processes. The advent of science and philosophy
totally agree.
Actually established this construction of, this is how we solve these problems. What causes it to rain? Well, we can actually watch it rain. We can see what's happening. It's humid before it rains. And then all of a sudden we get this water. And all of a sudden we start seeing different gods being subsumed into each other. So that eventually what ends up happening is that we go from 50 or 60 gods down to 8, and then 4. And then eventually we get down to 1 God. That's just the God of everything.
I would say the 2, then 1, probably something like that. Because even the Jewish, they had, because I say they had, in a sense, Yahshua or Jesus, and his Asher, or maybe it was Yahweh. Sorry, Yahweh. Yahweh and his Asher. There's a writing found in Canaan on a pot that said that Yahweh and his Asher. Yahweh is in a sense the Jewish God, and Asher was a Canaanite or whatever goddess.
Well, and bear in mind too, though, that both Judaism or Hebrewism at that time, where we had the division, Christianity and Islam, they are actually not monotheism; they're polytheistic. They actually have like the Trinity. They have the idea of the Spirit, and then there's the actual God, and then there's
totally agree. I totally agree.
But the thing is that we even see now that summation of the extraneous gods into the monotheistic God. Like in Christianity, they say the Son, the Holy Ghost, and the Father, but they're actually the same being. So we are seeing that transition even to this day. So we can actually look and point to that history of monotheism basically being the dying process of religion, where we have these multiple gods, like everything, to now a single God. And what's the focus of that single God? The one thing that we really can't explain from a philosophical and sociological perspective, which is what happens after we die. And everything else that gods were used to explain, what is lightning, why is the earthquake, why do we go to war, why do we hate people, why do we love people, all these things have actually been explained by science. We know why these things are. And so we don't need a god for them. And that's why we see this reduction in polytheism. And we even see this process happening in India. We see it in China. We see it in a lot of locales where science is becoming more and more taught. And we see these polytheistic religions like Hinduism and Shintoism and Buddhism, where they actually have multiple Buddha and Buddhai, being relegated into smaller and smaller deistic groups. So as science advances, we see this loss of religion. And that's also why we see this huge pushback against science and secularism, because the
Oh,
groups
yes.
that have these religious beliefs, they don't want to lose them because it is so much part of their ideology and identity.
I agree, and they don't want real challenge.
No, they don't.
In other words, if they think they're going to lose, like when I was in Seattle, I moved because my wife lost her job, so we had to move. I moved to Illinois, but I was in Seattle. I'm originally from California, but I was in Seattle, and there's a place there called the Bible Defense Institute, and I realized it's just down the street, dude. I could go and picket that thing. And I thought, oh, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to call him up. I'm going to ask him to debate me. Or I'm going to say, I'm going to tell him, hey, you say you can defend the Bible, defend it against me.
Yep. Well, and then when we actually talked earlier over on LinkedIn, actually, we were talking about conspiracy theory, right? And you proposed that religion is a conspiracy theory. And one of the things that
well, I'm not saying every single religion is a conspiracy theory, but what I was saying is, if you slow down and think, like if you read the Bhagavad Gita, it says the unbeliever is a sinner, and they're foolish, and they shouldn't be listened to, and they're confused, and they misunderstand reality. What? You're just saying because I don't believe your unproven claims that somehow so to me, that's what I'm saying about a conspiracy. If you read into some of the things they say, they're trying to build the conspiracy there, you know.
Well, see, here's the thing. So, I actually propose that conspiracy theory is actually taking over and filling the gap of religion.
Well, it's doing that now for people that don't want to have religion. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is that, as I said, I don't think that religion is a conspiracy theory. Yeah, I think that religion is just the byproduct of misunderstanding. But conspiracy theories, I think, do play a role in the construction of religious ideology. And interestingly enough, I think that conspiracy theories are acting as the new religion, especially within a secular culture. The United States, we're actually at what 54-55% non-religious. We went from 3% atheists to about 15% atheists in the last 2 decades. We are the fastest growing religious group in the United States. And so many people who have rejected the religion have left Christianity, left Judaism, left Islam, left any number of religions that exist. They're turning to conspiracy theories like flat Earth because it makes them feel as though they're special. They have this inside knowledge.
Oh yeah, I agree.
That nobody else has.
And if you use that criteria, tell me what religion does not tell you we do have the inside knowledge that no one else has. And even like Ken Ham said, I watched a video and he tells children, if there ever comes a time where the Bible is contradicting what the scientists say, always believe the Bible. I mean, what?
But the key difference here when it comes to conspiracy theory is conspiracy theory is inherently about the act of hiding, the concealment of that information.
The belief. It doesn't have to be real, but you mean the belief of a concealment.
Yes,
which, exactly. Like I said, a lot of them say atheists and science, right? Like you said about gays and whatever, are trying to take over the government. There's a whole bunch of conspiracy theories that are religious based because it's because it's satanic. That we're really, when we're atheists or gay or whatever, we're satanic because they'll say, well, look, the proof, Damien's black shirt and his red beard. Oh yeah, not because I'm goth and like goth music and you know I'm from a genre or rock and roll or whatever. I'm also a metalhead. Yeah. It's not because of that. It's simply because I'm a demon worshiper or something, or somehow because I don't believe in their God. Yep. So that's what I mean they get. Know what I'm saying is I agree with you that it's not the religion itself, the claims it makes always has to be, but a lot of religions their claims sure do mimic conspiracy theories. And a lot of times people justify their faith by using conspiracy theories. They'll say,
Oh yeah.
the reason atheists don't believe this conspiracy is because they don't trust God, or they want to sin. That is a conspiracy. What are you talking about?
That's not conspiracy. That all that is them trying to explain why people don't believe as they do.
But they're
Number
offering
one,
it as a justification. It's a fallacy. It's
that
not a real.
it
They
is a
don't
fallacy.
just.
It is a fallacy, but it is their very confined logical explanation
Well, I
within
agree,
the
and
world.
they're thinking. I agree. Well, because so it goes back to religion. It's religion's fault because their world, magic is real. Their book says anyone who doesn't agree with our view of magic is doing something evil, and also conspiracy in the fact that is there not a lot of books, especially with moralistic values, where they say there's the evil forces, they are out there, they are constantly fighting the good word, they
But,
are enemies of the cross or Jesus, you know.
but here's the thing, though. Okay, so first, I first of all agree with you. There are many, many books that are doing that, but
Right, right. That's like a common theme, man.
but that's a common thing for all religions, and that's because
Once again, why? But see, but that would, if that is, but if that statement you just said is a common theme for all religions you agree with, then at least you're agreeing in some mild way that I am correct, that they all are doing this similar behavior, and it does sure mimic conspiracy theory type of thinking. I'm talking about like
Oh,
the
no.
type
Okay,
of
hang on.
so.
I don't disagree with that. There is a conspiracy theory type thinking. Okay, that's actually my original point. That the two operate very similarly. The thing is
Correct.
that the principal issue here is fear of the other again. So the reason
I
why
agree
there's
with that too.
evil forces and that theme exists is because anything outside of that religion, any person that is outside of that religion that doesn't fit into your mold, your belief under this religion, this idealism that exists, they're an outsider. They're evil. They're the other, and that's just the construction of religion in our society, organized religion, nonetheless. But I don't think that religion in and unto itself is actually conspiratorial. I think that conspiracy theories, while they act like a religion in many respects, are actually different in certain modal thought construction and logic. Again, let's go back to flat earthers for a moment. Flat earthers think, oh, the earth is flat. We can observe it as flat. They reject any of the proof that says the earth is round. Oh, the pictures from outer space, they're photoshopped. Or there's no way you could go to
I
the
know.
moon. The moon,
I've heard people actually say that. Someone said that the moon is a projected hologram. I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah, no,
wow. How do I approach this in a thoughtful way? Because I just
you,
seriously.
you have that dumbfounded moment, like, are you serious? But
I
the
seriously. I'm pretty good at like coming up with stuff quick. I was like, that
it
one
stops
got
you
me.
for a second. Yeah,
That one got me. Holy
yeah,
shit! You actually think the moon is a hologram? I had to stop for a second and just go, wow.
yeah. No, but stuff like that. There is a key difference between the religion and the conspiracy theory. The people that believe in the flat Earth think that the entire scientific community, everybody that thinks this stuff outside of their little group of people,
Yeah.
are conspiring against them. Religious groups actually typically don't do that. Religious groups say, this is our belief, this is what we think. Um, People are going to say that we're wrong or are going to disagree with us. They're allowed to do it. We don't care. They're not actually working against us. We're trying to work against them. And that's the key difference. Uh, One of them hinges on a large group of people working in mass against the small group, and the other group saying, hey, we don't really care about these outside people, but we want to impose our beliefs on everybody else. And that's the thing. Like the whole principal concept and construction of conspiracy theory, working as religion, a novel religion, uh, replacing and usurping, I should say, um, current modern religions, is this kind of process of transition. People saying, I don't believe in this religion. I grew up with this religion, but I still have this whole, and I need to be connected to this community. I need a community that I can fit into. And so they go to conspiracy theorists. They go to people who say the Illuminati is
just like
take over the
community. That reminded me. I had a friend who is an atheist, long time, but he goes to church. He's older, and he goes, not to be mean, but he goes, Damien. I can't remember how old he was. Like, let's say 90 or 80. I mean, he was 80 something. I don't remember, but he was old. I mean, but I talk to anybody, 100 years old. What do I? But so I like people, so it doesn't matter to me. But I try not to judge anyone. But anyway, so that he tells me, Damien, when it comes to being this old, atheists ignore me, but religious people flock to me.
Yep.
He goes, and it feels good because they want to go take me out to eat and hang out and, and do. He goes, atheists don't want to do that with me. And I was like, it's true. Sorry, but yes, you're right. I don't really want to hang out with him totally. I mean, I would be okay to go out to eat, but I agree. I didn't feel like. But then again, I don't totally do that with. I'm not super social that way. I kind of like don't. I like a little bit, but I can get burned out. I don't.
Yeah. Well, see, the thing with religion is that it is as much a belief system as it is a social cultural driving force.
Oh, it's absolutely that. Oh, yes. Oh.
And one of the key issues that exists in our society is that we don't really have secular driving forces for cultural interaction. Atheism, your friend is right. Atheists, once we kind of get rid of and reject that religion, all of a sudden we kind of get this independent mindset. And so it's very difficult to establish social cultural norms where we can get together and say, hey, we are going to be a part of our community.
Right.
Universalitarians, for example, are great in this respect because they welcome everybody. And so you can have a community and have genuine discussions that are disagreements and help boost that social interconnectivity. But it's still like church, it's still kind of an organized system. And the organization of religion is very much part of keeping communities together. And that goes back to the earlier comment at the beginning of this discussion, where you want to see the world as a community, but that's very difficult.
It is difficult for me.
When
I'm never. I just because I espoused a goal does not mean I claim perfection. Like I told people, I don't like the word woke. Not used for yourself or even no. I mean both ways. I don't like someone saying I am woke, and I don't like people saying those people think they're woke. To me, it's just toxic. Period. For me personally. To me, I always know that I'm biased. It's a human thing. I need to remember that, and I need to be humble. Like I know on my webpage, I wanted to put militant anti-racist. I thought about it, and I thought, well, that sounds like I know it all. You know what? Strives to be anti-racist. I'm like, yeah, that sounds more honest. Well, because I know that like when COVID started, I shared a meme that was a joke I thought about COVID, but it really was about Asians. I ended up deleting it like 2 days later when a friend told me, "Hey, man, that thing is kind of racist," and I was like, "Well, I see it that way. I thought it was funny." And he goes, "Yeah, because you're being racist," and I was like, "Oh." So that's why I wanted to put strives to be anti-racist because it is a goal. So the same thing about humanity. I'm not saying that Damien is some ever-loving person. I can be cold, indifferent, hateful, but that's not the goal. That's a failure.
Yeah, I adhere to one bias, and I tell everybody this, and that is I'm not racist, I'm not sexist, I'm not anti-gay or anything like that. I mean, I am a gay man. I'd be really stupid anti-gay. I hold one bias, and that is I'm stupidest. I'm anti-stupid. Okay. And
you mean the intentional choosing of stupidity, correct?
Yes. Not ignorance.
I'm believing that you mean by that, not people that are just uninformed. Because there are people that do stupid things. But I know if I said that I don't like stupidity, I mean I don't respect is what I would say to like. I do not respect the intentional choice of stupidity.
Yes.
I believe you have a right to it.
Yeah,
but you don't deserve respect for it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, see, and that's the thing. Like, I'm not against ignorance. Ignorance, you can correct, you can educate, you can inform, you can tell. But then you get those people who intentionally ignore facts, intentionally ignore the actuality, the reality in which they are living, and they refuse to acknowledge the thing. Like the one politician who was in the Senate who picked up a snowball and said, "It's cold outside. We have snow. How can there be global warming?" I'm like, no. That's what I mean by I'm anti-stupid. I'm a stupidist. I cannot stand stupid people who intentionally ignore the reality that they're living in, ignore the facts, even when it's been browbeaten into them over and over and over.
I totally agree with you. I dislike a lot of people actually, but what I try to do is care for them anyways. As not about nothing the fuck to do with them. Because like some of my Antifa friends, again, just to say that they feel that I'm too nice or open in a sense with rightists. Yeah, because I'm hoping to fucking change their mind. That's why.
But the thing is that there is a limit to how much we can actually.
Well, no, true. If someone is too toxic, I just fucking block them. But I mean, I don't. So yes, if somebody I realize is so like they can't even see, because I always say I want to hear honest conversation.
Mhm.
That's just me. I want to talk to you in a real way, and I'll have honest conversation. So I try to talk to rightists. Like labels. No, let's stop using labels. Just tell me what you believe. What are they thinking inside? They'll talk. Forget all this. I won't use labels either. We won't call each other names. We'll just talk about these issues, because that's the real thing I want to talk about. And so when you do that to me, it allows. And I'm not saying that I can do this to everybody. That's all my point. So I totally agree with you. I block, because if people go, "Oh, well, people that block people is wrong." Fuck you. I block thousands of people. Okay, but I also have an open profile and will take questions from anybody and challenges from anybody. And as long as but I demand you respect. I will respect you, and I demand that done to me. If you do not, fucking go on.
Well, I'm the same way. The reason why, again, with this book, like people would ask me really stupid questions. They'd ask me questions that I find stupid because you can find information online. But because it was a matter of ignorance, they were actually asking me, which I would answer those questions, like, "What's a butt sex like?" I'm going to explain to them, that this is what that kind of sex is like. What's a dildo? It's not a rubber chicken. Okay, it's not not that kind of cock. There are things like that, and one of the things I want to bring up in my book, one of my chapters, I react to an article talking about homonormativity and heteronormativity.
Right.
And
those are good subjects to address for people, because most people don't realize it. But go ahead.
But they don't, yeah. So in a nutshell, for your audience, heteronormativity is this idea that the heterosexual point of view, one man, one woman, sex belongs to that. That's normal, and everything else is abnormal. That's heteronormativity. Homonormativity is this idea that strictly homosexuality, a man and a man, a woman and a woman, lesbian, and gay couple, that's normal, but everything else is abnormal. One of my professors who I spoke to when I was writing this book said that when something is normalized, it typically obstructs and turns everything else into the abstract. It demonizes, transgenderism. It demonizes pansexualism, bisexuality when it says this is homonormativity.
Well, really quick, let me say something. It reminds me of this thing that I say. What we don't understand, we come to fear. That which we fear, we come to, in a sense, mistrust. And that which we mistrust, we learn to hate. That which we hate, we seek to destroy. So it is upon us, actually, at the beginning of this whole process of this fear, that like a bunch of chains that just keep building on themselves, left unchecked. We need to check it at the beginning when we feel the fear of the unknown, and try to make it known. Or also, sometimes we just need to be accepting in ourselves and not expect the world to make us feel comfortable, and just accept that there's things we don't know, we'll never know, and that's okay. We can only,
But with the chapter, I mean, I did this long diatribe in this chapter because I'm one of those people who's like, point by point, this is stupid, this is stupid, no, no, no. But I come to realize that we need a new term. And I actually coined the term queer plurality to reference everybody. Every single person, they have their own sexual drive, they have their own sexual needs, they have their own sense of identity. And it all fits into the queer plurality. There's no one person that's the norm. There's no one person who emblemizes the whole of our subgroup. There isn't the absolute best lesbian. There isn't the best gay person. There isn't the best straight person, the best bi person. They don't exist.
I totally agree with that as an anarchist, but go ahead.
So each individual has their own sense of identity, and instead of saying this is the norm for homosexuality, this is the norm for heterosexuality, this is the norm for bisexuality, we're just all part of a queer plurality. We're all part of a larger analogous group of individuals. No one thing defines that individual. So that's why I coined that term, and I think in general use, it would actually be much better than saying homonormativity, heteronormativity. It's the queer plurality of our society. So I hope.
Well, I would say more accurate too, because really, this belief that everybody is somehow normatively, even though I happen to be gynosexual towards women, which is in a sense because I'm mildly intersex and I'm genderqueer. It's not exactly correct to call it heterosexual, but for me personally, but it doesn't matter. It's still, I agree with you. So the variance is humongous. That's the norm. That the thinking that's not the norm is just religion. It's just bullcrap. And it's actually not even all religion, because older religions had no problem. In fact, they acknowledged, hey, this obviously is a fact of reality. It's the later ones that went, oh, no, I don't accept that.
Yep. No, and the other thing is, in my last chapter in my book, there's one other term that I coined that I want to bring up, and I think you're going to like it. It is called sociocultural blue balls. And it's a term that I use to call out the people that are so hard up on any change that they get essentially political blue balls or sociocultural blue balls. They are in such pain and anguish.
I agree with that, because I'm an anarchist, right? But I'm so anarchist, I actually don't totally affix anywhere. I have like my own whole philosophy. It's like very close to, but kind of separate of everybody else. And everyone's like, well, you should just follow it. Why? I thought the whole thing was be yourself. Well, I feel this. So yes, I totally agree with you. They don't want any change. Even anarchists, like, really, you're an anarchist. You're like being fixed to something.
Yeah. Oh, and it's very funny. Like, I think that the people like Ron Johnson and Ted Cruz and all these people that are trying to, push for abortion and the Bible and the schools, they have social cultural blue balls. They don't want to change. They want to maintain their conservatism, and it just doesn't work. It doesn't help our culture, our society advance.
What I understand is, if they want to do that personally, or even not have sex, be totally celibate, dude, go. Yeah. But don't tell me who I have a poly lifestyle. Tell me, or I have a gender that's non-binary, and try to tell me I have to have a binary gender and have a heterosexual normative marriage where I'm since what do they call that? Not cheating to them. Well, no, fuck you. I have my own fucking whole system. Me and my wife are cool. Fuck off.
Yep.
Well, I know my gender, I'm sure, better than you.
Yeah, it's to each their own mentality. It's like a lot of people don't understand it in the United States specifically. Your right to a certain thing ends where my right starts.
Yeah, well, that should be a given period.
But most people don't understand that. They don't accept that. There's don't. A reason. Yeah, there's a reason why there are meme after meme after meme of Christians or religious people going, because of my religion, I can't eat pork, or I can't do this, or I can't do that. And the person goes, "Oh, that's fine. That's great." And then they turn around and go, "My religion, because I can't do it, you can't do it either." No, that's not how it works. It's just like the idea of, I'm on a keto diet. I'm not allowed to eat carbs, so you can't eat that donut either. It doesn't work. It totally doesn't.
Yeah.
And as a friar of the United Church of Bacon, I have to say that everybody should eat bacon unless they are anti-pork.
Yeah. Well,
No.
but exactly. So, but that's one thing. If someone wants to be anti-pork, you go for it. But the fact that when the moment that you tell everybody, I personally would not be okay. Like, so I've had some atheists tell me, "Well, I think atheists should be mandatory," and I said, "I'm anarchist. That does not work for me."
Yeah.
Now, I
Yeah,
don't believe in freaking undue coercion against people.
well, see, and that's the thing. It's one thing to get a person to realize that they're an atheist, to reject a religion of their own,
Correct.
and it's another to mandate it. Just like it's one
Yeah.
thing for a person to enter into a religion of their own accord, and it's another thing to indoctrinate them from a young child, a young age,
I'm against it.
then they expect them to adhere to it for the rest of their life. And that's how most religions operate.
And disown them sometimes if they even test it.
Exactly. So the personal right, the personal freedom is the biggest challenge for religious people. And I again, that comes down to cognitive dissonance. There are people that are so ingrained into their religion that when they realize they have a choice, they have the choice to go, hey, I don't have to be Christian anymore. I don't have to be Muslim anymore. I don't have to be Buddhist or Shinto or whatever. I can be what I want to be. They have this struggle and that cognitive dissonance, the internalized fear of change is the driving force behind many of the different issues that we have. There's a reason why good Christian women will stay with an abusive husband. There's a reason why we have kids who commit suicide because they're gay and their family has rejected them.
I know, and that kind of, or trans, that kind of shit. Even like me, people don't realize. I just because I don't tell the world constantly, and I do openly tell people I'm intersex and genderqueer. It's just like, but because I most of the time just act to most people like an odd male, they just think heterosexual male, normal, whatever. So, but it doesn't mean I was never affected by it. The whole time in my life, my parents did not tell me that it happened, and they had done surgery on my penis. Was never told this, which I think should be unethical. Period. I shouldn't be an adult, 20-something years old, feeling kind of sexual, and I wanted to go to the doctor because I thought maybe I had too much testosterone because I'm kind of aggressive and violent, and so I thought maybe and I didn't want to be. I was like, I feel too aggressive. I want to calm down, and so I asked the doctor, you test my testosterone. Maybe I just have too much. And he comes back, and also it hurt too because of how he did it. His doctors did miscare for other people that are different. So the doctor comes back and tells me, "Oh, it's real low testosterone." I go, "Really low?" Mm-hmm. How low? And the doctor laughed, which is a fucked up thing to do. But he laughed and said, "Huh, lower than most women." And now for someone who had never even, I was a Christian at the time, never had thought of another gender. I was just told I'm not a total man.
Yeah.
I almost cried instantly. I was like shameful, like I felt like evil or something. And then I realized, you know what? My family never let me have the firstborn status as a male. I was never treated. I asked them, why do I feel like I am not? You guys believe in the Bible. Why am I not treated like the firstborn male? Why do I feel like I even that there's so much so that the head of the table was always open. But then my friend came to live with us and they let him stay there and he felt uncomfortable. He goes, "Dude, isn't this yours?" And I go, "Dude, it was never mine." But I never understood why. But later learning it was because I was intersex. Here I was being treated because of religion beliefs, bigoted for being intersex, that I was born that way. How the fuck did I do anything? I wasn't even doing a bad in other words, what I'm saying is I don't agree with it, but I'm saying they try to say that gay is a behavior. Well, as an intersex, what the fuck was I doing? I didn't even do anything. They just don't feel I was born full male and I wasn't a woman, so I was a worthless. And they cared if I died almost. But my point is, so a lot of people need to remember that just because you have an experience doesn't mean other people don't. And that's why I was to go back to the beginning, I don't like woke, because I realize I have a lot of bias. There's a lot of people's experience I don't know a fucking deal about at all. And so what I try to do, that I try to help other people, is listen. A lot of times other people, it's not they're telling you because they want your advice. They may just tell you because they want someone else to share with. Not even that you have to understand, but just so that somebody somewhere hears them. And so that's why I try to be that too. And that's also why I like telling things in a sense that most people would be afraid to tell anyone. I like telling the world because I want to show you can do that and you can still feel okay. There is absolutely nothing wrong with being who you are.
And what I will do, and I'll leave off on this because my headphones are dying, unfortunately, is that one of the reasons why I wrote my book is because there are so many people who are afraid to ask questions. They're afraid to learn about their own sexuality. They're afraid to go, I am bi, or I am pan, or I am gay, or I am transgender. And sometimes they don't have a person to talk to. They don't have that person to listen to. And so having someone who can write a book and say, this is what this is. You know, if you are experiencing this or you're experiencing that, you know, if you are questioning your beliefs, it's okay to question them. And to do it in a concise and direct way that anybody could pick up the book, read a couple of pages and go, huh. That's why I wrote the book, so that those people can actually have that option, that ability to go, hey, I realize this about myself. So
well, I think it's good because it helps, you know, in a sense, be a safe person. Because that's what I was trying to say about listening. Yeah. What I realized my need to be for another person is a safe person. That's exactly what I need to be.
Yeah, and that's, you know, what I hope is that a person can pick up this book. And if they don't have someone who is a safe person to talk to, they can read this and go, hey, this person has had this experience. They know what this is like. They have this kind of insight, and it applies to me. You know, that's what I'm hoping for. So that's why this book exists, because I think there's a need for it. There's a need for people to go,
oh, yeah, I definitely think people should check it out. People need to become more informed because it actually helps build your empathy. I had a lot less empathy before because I only had my own perspective. So it was like, it's like if you people say, well, you don't know something, you know, how can you do it? Like you haven't learned it yet. Well, yeah. And empathy, I think, is kind of the same way. If you don't know other perspectives, to me, like I feel, for me personally, I feel that I became more, in a sense, multicultural or aware, like you said, queer and everything else, when I started being culturally multiple. When I started allowing my understanding of all these cultures and realizing all the different ways that they involve and are all going on. And then also I just stay open to learn and realize that I'm not woke. I don't know everything. I'm just trying to be a good human. You know, I want to treat people with respect, and I'm willing to understand that sometimes I don't. And then I have to change. And so, like, some people I feel like are so aggressive about being told they're wrong. If someone tells me they're wrong, even if I don't like how they said, I test, but is it true? Is it a really, like, say I think people like, you're just a big ego, and I'm like, no, I'm not. And I think, okay, maybe I am. but it allows me to then go, okay, I need to work on that. I mean, you know, so I'm just saying, I think that having for ourselves just a humble disposition of wanting to be a better person aids us in thus becoming a better person.
And it comes down to just understanding the facts, understanding the reality, and then approaching every problem, every situation from a logical standpoint, in my opinion. You know, as a last kind of note, I had this long discussion on when the police groups on Facebook, and I pointed out that police kill a lot of people in the United States, but in retrospect, you know, 61% of the people that die due to gun violence, which is 3 times the size of the number of people that police kill every year, is just suicide. You know, homicide and suicide take more lives in the United States, 65,000 people a year on average, versus the 1,000 to 4,000 that we see on average with police.
And the interesting thing about that, so just one second. So, and then they'll say that, you know, someone fighting for all gun rights at all costs will always try to go, well, it's a mental health issue. But I wonder why those same people never give money then for mental health. If it's a mental health issue, please make counseling free.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, it's not just a mental health. I think that
No, I know. I'm not saying it is. I was
yeah,
making a
yeah,
point that if
yeah,
that's your argument,
yeah.
then
No,
please start donating to mental health.
and I agree. No, there is a mental health issue there. There really is, but it's also a gun issue. It's access
Of
to
course
a
it is.
weapon that you know, and
It's
nobody
not all
wants
or
to.
nothing.
Yeah, nobody wants to acknowledge it. And the thing is, statistically speaking, the likelihood of being killed by a police officer, while higher for a black person than a white person, or a Latino person versus a white person, is still astronomically low compared to homicide and suicide in the United States.
Well, and all that means is that we need to do both issues, not that
Yeah,
somehow there's a valuation that we do not need to care or care less about the police. I agree with you only in the fact that, yes, we need to give a fuck lot more also about all the violence, not just one,
but
but we absolutely need to care about black violence. It's a fucking disgusting racist holdover that
well,
our society is
it is a
stranglehold
holdover.
by.
It is a holdover, and what's worse is that it is spurred by other holdovers from that racist period. The
That manly, you're a man. Like I heard people putting down man buns. I don't have obviously any hair, so could give a shit about man bun for me personally. I would never wear one, but the fuck are you putting people down for having a man bun? I'm like, I don't. This is just bull. What the fuck? Well, they're too
well,
sissified, and
yeah,
what does
well,
that mean? They're
it,
carrying. I'm cool with carrying people. Fuck you.
but it's not even that. It's just it's the economic divide. It's the what drives
Oh,
crime,
totally.
what drives
Classism.
tragedy.
Absolutely.
Uh, there's so much more to the issue of gun violence in the United States than any politician is ready to even admit. Um, and so there are so many issues that it could be resolved if it were approached logically with the scientific method.
Well,
What's
no
the cost?
shit. I would. Well, here's the thing. I agree with totally. And how can anyone could disagree? Is certainly if we used logic, we would have a hell of a lot higher accuracy towards good behaviors or good outcomes than not using logic.
Yeah.
Definitely. Who the fuck can disagree with that?
Anyway, I will leave you on that.
All
Thank you
right.
very much for having me on, and we had a really fun discussion. Maybe we'll do another one in the future here.
Sure.
And yeah, I appreciate it, and I look forward to seeing the final podcast.
Yeah, no problem. And I want to thank everybody and always feel welcome to hit me up if you want to talk. Now, if you do talk with me, I require intellectual honesty. And that means basically that you just try from your honest self, in a sense, not to give fallacies. And if you do, you realize their errors and you move on from them, not defend them. Anyways, thank you and have a great day.
Have fun.
All right, let me stop this recording. Where's stop that one. All right, I'm gonna stop the other recording too.
Hello, and welcome to my channel. I am Damien Marie AtHope. In the simplest terms, I am an atheist-humanist philosopher and prehistorical writer-researcher at DamienMarieAtHope.com. I am specifically an axiological atheist. An axiological atheism can be thought to involve ethical and value theory reasoned and moral argument driven apatheism, ignosticism, atheism, anti-theism, anti-religionism, secularism, and humanism. Axiological atheist can be understood as a value theory or a value science atheist. As an axiological atheism's ethically reasoned and constructive pro-humanity. I am an axiological thinker, value theorist. The science of goodness, worthiness, usefulness, valuableness, virtue, reliableness, accuracy, validity, morality, integrity, beneficialness, etc., etc. We axiologists have a value consciousness. And in general, we see the architecture of humanistic humanitarianism value in people that we see as dignity beings, places and things are not. Axiology is a value theory. In its broadest sense, it involves areas of philosophy that are deemed to encompass some evaluative or evaluation aspect. Therefore, it crosses almost all domains in some way or another. Now for a more detailed terms as to what I am. I am an axiological atheist, an anti-theist, an anti-religionist, secularist, humanist, rationalist, writer, artist, poet, philosopher, advocate, activist, with schooling in psychology, sociology, as well as I am an autodidact, self-taught in science, archaeology, anthropology, and philosophy. I promote science and am against pseudoscience, pseudo-history, pseudo-morality, things that are found in religion. I support realism, axiology, of course, liberty, justice, ethics. I am also an anarchist socialist. I support anarchism and socialism, progressivism, liberalism, philosophy, psychology, archaeology, and anthropology, advocating for sexual, gender, child, secular, LGBTQIA+, race, class rights, and equality. So if you can guess from all that, I support or challenge that I have an eclectic variety of videos on a variety of topics. Please take time to check them out, as well as if you enjoy them, please give them a like. And don't forget to subscribe, as new things are on their way all the time for my channel.